morning. Well, actually, it's probably closer to midday. And hard water time. I think it come off. So something a little bit different. You know, we are hoping that we can find some perch and maybe even a pike. We have some set lines for pike in the shallows. But right now, I've got myself onto a pattern for smelt, rainbow smelt in particular. So, just trying to get it positioned right, because it's a really, really finesse bite, really sensitive bite for these fish. I've had two so far. You know, they're small, but really, really tasty. As you can see, they're not big at all, but for their size, they have huge mouths. So I've got a really tiny jig and a little piece of minnow. I just took one of the minnows out of the minnow bucket and cut a tiny, tiny chunk. We'll go over that after. I was using a little plastic grub, I guess it was like a rubber maggot impregnated with scent, and it was getting the bumps, but I couldn't transfer it into a proper bite. And as soon as I switched to the natural, the real piece of minnow, which is just bite size for them, I immediately had the bites. So just see if we can get another, you know, if I can get 10 of those, that'll be a good snack for when we get home, lunchtime or later on. And all I'm doing, I'm fishing 30 feet of water right now, just over 30 feet. I've got the most sensitive ice rod that I have. It's basically like a piece of spaghetti. And I think it's 3 or 4 pound test line. And what I'm doing is I'm working, you know, the first 2 feet off the bottom, because when these fish move through in schools, they could be right tight to the bottom, they could be 6 feet off the bottom, they could be a foot under the ice. You really never know. So as I'm letting it down, while I you know, first get into a spot, let it down so many feet, hold it. Let it down so many feet, hold it. And what I found is that they're pretty much within 6 to 8 inches of the bottom in this deep water. So I'm making sure that I stay as close as possible. And then I'm pretty much just letting my equipment do the work. You know, the stiffer rods that we have, with jigging spoons and such, we can't detect these bites, but this rod can. And you know, it's a little chilly. It's only about -6. It's quite comfortable out, but the wind on my hand is a little bit chilly, so with my hand shaking, I'm not going to be able to detect the takes. So just gently propping it up on a little piece of slush or rod stand or whatever you have, just so that the tip can do its work. Give it a little jig every now and then, a little twitch. You know, if the fish is off to the side, you want to be able to draw them over. Hopefully get a bite. Yeah, that's about average size. You know, they do. I think I missed that bite. They do get bigger. Hopefully we can get a few more. These aren't like perch and pike and other predatory fish in a way that they will, you know, grab it and hang on. They will grab it and drop it, grab it and drop it. Especially since the jig I'm using has a heavy weight. If I find that this is just too much, then I do have some like size 10 and size, I think some size 10 and some size 16 hooks. You know, right down to those really tiny sizes, that we can get it down there and give them a little bit more play, a little bit of extra line off to the side to be able to not feel the resistance as much. They're still down there. I think after a couple of bites missed there, I'm going to check, make sure I've still got a piece of bait on there. Yeah, see, my minnow's missing, so just having that little bit of natural bait off there, stop getting bites. So all this is just a tiny section of the minnow. So what I've done is I've cut it in just little slices, so my hook goes into a piece of flesh under the spine and back out so that they can't just yank it off. Let's get this back down here. With a fresh piece of bait, we should get a bite right away. There's a whack. Might be moving up. We're still getting knocks and bumps, so just lift it up a bit, bring it slightly higher off the bottom. Try and bring it right into the path of the school of fish that are down there. And drop it back down. The only downside to this really whippy rod is that you've got to have a good sweep for the hook set. Swimming up with it. There we go. That's how it works. That one was a little bit trickier. He took it and swam straight up with it. So that tells me that they might actually be moving a little bit higher than I thought. Could be as much as 2 feet off the bottom. Back down. I think there may actually be a fish on there already. Or there might have been there for a second. Now I'm a little bit higher. I brought it up a little bit more. Trying to get into the strike zone of that school of smelt. kind of getting bumps already. Find that the takes are too subtle. If you're up high, drop it down. And vice versa. If they're too subtle down, bring it up. Just keep playing with your depth. The fish are always going to be moving up and down, and it's usually a pretty big group of them. Definitely moving up higher. And even in this 30 feet of water, sometimes you can potentially be catching all day long fishing a foot under the ice. So you just have to keep experimenting with your depth. Tiny, tiny baits. Okay, so that's a couple whacks and then nothing. Time to check, make sure we still have some bait. So we definitely have some bait here, but it might be too big. So, get my scissors. Just going to trim a chunk of that off. Even though they have big mouths for their size, they are still tiny mouths, tiny fish. So just adjusting the size of your bait. You know, I've missed the last 3 or 4 bites. So make the bite a little bit easier to take in. Just over halfway down. I'm just going to stop for a moment. Just see if I get any activity this high in the water column, and yep, bite right away. We're not even close to the bottom, getting activity. The main part of the school might be up higher, and I might have been fishing the bottom of the school all along. Even more aggressive takes here. So again, fishing for smelt, it's very important to pay attention to your depth. These fish could be all through the layers, and when you find the big group of them, you're going to get far more aggressive takes and more often. Be about 15 feet down, and we're still getting all of some whacks. So I'm going to drop it down another couple of feet. See if I can find that magic depth. So I'm getting indication about 15 feet down, right to the bottom. So it's just going to be now a matter of working that depth, that whole layer, to try and find where they're most aggressive. There's one right there. Ooh, that's a stronger fish. What we got here? A perch about the same size as the smelt. See that one? Beautiful little fish. I would love to get a whole ton of perch, just because it's fun catching big perch, but snack-wise, I'm only interested in the smelt, really. Everything else just for sport, but the smelt, they're tasty. Okay, so there we are. That's going to be about 10 feet down. Let's try a little bit higher in the water column. Nothing. Just drop it down 2 more feet. Say another 3 feet. Nothing. A couple more feet. Back there. There's the fish. And this one's about mid-depth, so 15, 16 feet I figure. Another good smelt. One thing I want to mention is obviously if you have your electronics, your Vexillar, your flasher units, depth finders, you know, adjusting your sensitivity on those to recognize fish of this size, schools of bait fish, what have you, you're going to see these show up at all different depths. And it takes a lot of the guesswork out, so you'll be able to find these fish a lot faster and stay in their strike zone a lot more often. Now for me, you know, I didn't bring the underwater camera. I don't have a depth finder. I don't have a flasher unit. You know, I like to do things the old-fashioned way in a lot of cases. You know, I come to a spot where I know these fish are, and just work based on previous experience over the years. You know, if you have your electronics, use them. They'll definitely give you an advantage and you'll catch more fish. But you don't 100% need them. You know, if you know that these fish are here, like I said, follow the tips I gave you. Try the different depths. You know, as you come into a spot, fish the first couple feet under the ice and drop it down a couple feet. Just keep doing that until you find that first layer where you're getting the indication, and then keep working down. You know, when you've got a school of perch or a school of bluegills or crappies or smelt, they're all the same. They group up together. They stay at a depth, and you can quite often pick them off just by working the water column. That's right, fire up your gas auger, spook all the fish my way. Again, I'm about halfway down, maybe just over halfway down. Trying to get back into that strike zone. There's another one. Fish. big old smelt. So there's almost nothing left of this bait. I'll try to see if I can get one more with what's on here. And then I think it's going to be Goldie's turn. Oh, he came off. He came off halfway up. That felt like a better smelt too. I got a humongous fish on here now. What do we got? Another tiny perch. Absolutely beautiful little guy. We'll get him back. So yeah, hopefully those tips will help you out. Again, it works whether you're chasing any kind of panfish, but in particularly smelt. Work your depths. If you've got your electronics, use them. If you don't, just keep working the layers from the right under the surface of the ice. Well, I guess right under the bottom of the ice. You know, in 2 or 3 foot intervals all the way down, regardless of what depth you're at. If you're in 5 feet, work at 1 foot at a time. If you're in 10 feet, 1 or 2 feet at a time. When you're in 30 feet like I am, go 3 or 4 feet at a time until you find those layers that they're in. And yeah, once you usually find a few smelt, the main group isn't far, and you have a really good chance at getting a bunch. So we'll see you next time.